Hello, everybody. This is Ryan Lanier with Organizing for Good, and it never gets old, but this is my absolute favorite time of the week where I get to bring you a nonprofit shout out interview. And I'm super excited today to welcome Katie Ford from Truth Be Told, Executive Director, but in transition, yes?
Yes. Yes, I'll be leaving Truth Be Told at the end of May after serving as the leader for four years.
I know that they've been so grateful to have you do all your hard work there. And so just everyone out there, of course, we're having some technology issues today, but we are just gonna roll on, okay? That's just the way it goes. So, okay. Anyway, so the nonprofit shout out interview, it got started last year when COVID started shutting everything down. And in my own personal heart, I thought I would love to give voice to especially Austin area nonprofits and let them say what's going on. Let them say, you know, how they're suffering, struggling, and how we can still support. So we are still in that phase, and there's plenty to learn. And so we're going to dive in with the first question, which is, please tell us all about Truth Be Told, who you serve, and how you serve.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ryan, for having me on this platform. Appreciate the exposure. So Truth Be Told is a nonprofit in Austin that's been around for 20 years. We support justice-involved women, women during and after incarceration. We provide healing programs and safe community during and after incarceration. Our flagship program is called Talk to Me, and it specifically provides safe space for women to tell the story of what they believe put them on a path to prison. As Brene Brown says, the best-selling author and researcher on shame resiliency, it's only when we own our story are we empowered to write new chapters or empowered to write the ending. So that's kind of at the heart of what we do. You may not know this, but women are the fastest growing population in our criminal justice system. They're getting incarcerated a time and a half faster than men. And the criminal justice system, the correctional system, is a system designed by men for men. So Truth Be Told provides what's called gender responsive programs, trauma-informed care, to speak to the unique risk factors that lead them into the system, which are significantly higher rates in substance abuse, interpersonal violence and domestic violent relationships, and a history of childhood physical and sexual abuse. So our programs get to the root of the cause of that cycle of abuse and incarceration by addressing the trauma at the root.
Okay. Oh, I love tech issues. Okay. I got that. You just hung up for that. To hear those statistics, that's just murder on the soul. I did not know that. So, but really, that's a showstopper. And which leads me to really realize that so many of the beautiful nonprofits that are working with women in particular, it's so incredibly important because when you work with a woman, you're really working with a group. I mean, let's be honest, women are not, we're not solo ships. We are a group. So just amazing, just amazing. So go right on into, you know, you can go all the way back to summer with, you know, when COVID started, how you guys have been pivoting, excuse me. And I also found it interesting to ask, what are things you've learned that you're actually going to keep doing going forward, like not go back to? So
Right. So the bulk of our programs and services occur inside prisons, Central Texas women's prisons. And so in March of last year, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice closed off all prisons to outside visitation and volunteers. So our in-person programs have not been in operation since March of last year.
Oh.
We had to pivot very quickly, and I was so proud of our programs team. We essentially took the nuts and bolts of our in-person programs and repurposed it as a male correspondence curriculum. And so we have been providing vital mental health support to women through the U.S. mail system with weekly and monthly mailings. If you can imagine, the women we serve have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic, and now they are enduring extreme isolation, no family visitation, no in-person programming, rehabilitative programming. They are truly isolated. So the mental health support that we provide through the mail is just vital. And I say that because that's what they're telling us when they respond. We include metered envelopes for them to address metered envelopes for them to respond and share their reflections and writings back. And every single piece of mail that we receive from the women is personally responded to by a volunteer facilitator. So all of our in-person class facilitators have been so faithful and dedicated to our mission and are now working with the women through the U.S. mail system.
So usually it takes about 20 or 25 minutes into these interviews before I cry, and you already got me. I'm just, that's just incredible. Especially, I remember you remember growing up, letters meant so much, right? And that is not something we get anymore. Letters. I mean, letters are,
right.
It's almost like you've brought an old school solution back. I hope all don't like me. So, okay.
Yeah. Well, in addition to that,
beautiful.
In addition to that, we also offer post-release support, emotional support. And it used to be pre-COVID pandemic, it was a weekly conference call. And also we have a private Facebook group for our program graduates only. So they can, after they get out of prison, they can continue to connect and support one another. That very strong and vital peer-to-peer support network. You know, only the women who have been through what they have been through can truly understand and support each other through their successes and their, their barriers that they're facing. But we used to do conference calls once a week, but like the rest of the planet discovered Zoom. And so our program graduates are Zooming once a week now to stay in safe, supportive, emotional community. Beyond bars is what we call it. And then we also started learning that we could offer courses and programs virtually. For instance, we inside prison, we normally would offer a healing trauma brief intervention. It's an evidence-based program written by Dr. Stephanie Covington. And we realized that we could offer a virtual version of that. So now we offer healing trauma virtual classes beyond bars to our graduates who are rebuilding their lives after incarceration. So there's been ways to deepen program impact and maintain a sense of community, even with unprecedented barriers in the way.
Huge. It sounds like a multi-step process, and that is life. You know, you're keeping them from the beginning and to the end. That did not come out well. I'm sorry. I'm really upset about the internet connection. Program here in Austin, they talked about the women's prison where they're going and giving women college degrees, high school degrees, forgive me, high school degrees, and that mother and daughter in cases were graduating with high school degrees together. So
Mm.
you've partnered, I mean, every nonprofit, education, are there any other partnerships that are valuable?
Yes, we've done partnerships with Dress for Success, because they not only they're known for helping women get
Yes.
professional attire for job interviews, but they also do job placement and business entrepreneurial, professional networking and things like that. So we've done some partnerships in workshops, virtual workshops on leadership skills and job hunting with incarceration in your background, how to talk about that in a job interview, things like that. And then we also just recently formed a partnership with YWCA Greater Austin, providing no cost to low cost individual counseling to our graduates post-release. What we noticed is that when our graduates are engaging with us in, for instance, healing trauma and other workshops, it may, to heal from trauma, you have to look at the trauma, and that can bring up a lot of stuff. So we wanted to make sure that our graduates had all the support they needed while doing this hard personal growth work. So they now have access to counseling through the YWCA because of that partnership. We're really happy about that.
That's amazing. Again, essential. It just seems so, like, why wouldn't you? Like, how could you not have that part? That's amazing. So much support.
Well, and
in a tough situation. Okay, so let's just talk about, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say earlier, you had asked what were our takeaways from operating during what I'm calling COVID times. And,
frustrating. Okay.
But what we noticed is that in our mail program, that even though we have no delusions that it's a replacement or a substitute to doing this healing work in person, but what we have noted is that it does make a difference to be supported through the mail and to receive those letters of support and to do this work over mail correspondence. And so we have intentions now to continue in some form or fashion what we're calling the Right to Me program. And so this mail correspondence curriculum will continue on past the pandemic in some way. And then also doing the virtual communities, the virtual weekly meetings, and offering programs that way. We see ourselves continuing to do that. Like, for instance, before the pandemic, it never occurred to us that we could possibly do a course like healing trauma over the internet. But these times have shown that it is absolutely possible to form a safe community and to do that vital work virtually. So it's taught us how to be in community and deepen our program impact in other ways that we didn't see before.
That's wonderful. I definitely feel like we've learned there's so many more things we can do online and get just tons of better attendance. As a volunteer in lots of community groups and stuff, that is definitely where the meetings have upped attendance, because you just log in from. So, and typically it works better. Okay. Talk about, can the community do? How can people be involved in the support Truth Be Told?
Okay, so how people can be involved right now, because our in-person programs are suspended. We aren't necessarily taking new volunteers to be facilitators, which have to go through training and so forth, but we're always interested in hearing from people who are interested in our work, because there will come a time when we do ramp our in-person programs back up. So I believe I sent your assistant links to how to get in touch with us, but we're always seeking volunteers who are interested in possibly facilitating our programs. We are particularly interested in women who have past justice involvement. Somehow their lives have been impacted by the criminal justice system, so they have that lens and that perspective, but it's definitely not a requirement. We also are looking to grow our board of directors. We're always seeking new board members, particularly board members who have board governance experience and fundraising experience. And of course, like every nonprofit, we always appreciate the donations. And through our website, there's an online donation form, and you have the option to either give a one-time gift, or I am on by myself. Wow, that's fun. I'm just going to keep rolling. You have an option to give either a one-time gift or sign up for a monthly subscription and giving every month year round, which is extremely valuable to any nonprofit. That's actually to have that predictable income throughout the year helps us organize our spending and plan our spending to better support the women. And our host is coming back. So I'm going to drink some water. I finished my answer. I held down the fort.
I'm back. Okay. You on Facebook. That was awesome. So thank you for just rowing the boat. Okay, so we're talking about how the community can support.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I covered that when you got bumped off, but I can just reiterate, we're always looking to grow our board. We always are seeking donations. And there's also, if you're interested in volunteering, there's a form on our website if you're interested in volunteering, and you can indicate in what capacity that you're interested in volunteering.
Not sure if you can hear me or see me, but I am back.
I can hear you.
So my favorite part of the interview, I'm wondering if I'm going to be able to get to hear. So I'm just going to ask the question.
Okay.
How is there a beautiful story of how Truth Be Told was founded?
Yeah, actually. So we were founded by 3 women, and essentially one of our co-founders was the first one to go on to the prison unit. She was just looking to volunteer her time and did not know what her place would be or what her purpose would be, but it did just serendipitously be that they were looking for somebody with public speaking skills to help women tell their story of what led them to prison to at-risk youth that were involved in a program trying to avoid getting caught up in the criminal justice system. So Nathalie Sorrell is her name, and she started the original classes helping women tell their story to youth on probation or at-risk youth. And she did that for a time, but then the dynamics changed and they were no longer able to bring youth onto the unit. And so Nathalie assumed that the program was over and her time volunteering would be over. But the warden who was in charge of the unit at that time said, find a new audience because there is something fundamentally changing in the women who are learning to tell their story. It's not that they suddenly become model citizens and have, perfect behavior, whatever, but there's a sense of personal accountability. There is a increased self-worth and self-confidence. It's being able to stand in your truth, to talk about the things that have happened to you without shame. There's shame resiliency happening, and there's healing. There's healing happening. And so that became the first Talk to Me class. And the women in that program, in that very first class, actually named the program Talk to Me. And that was in 2000, and we officially became a nonprofit in 2003. Okay.
So
Yeah.
sorry about the tech issues. I tried to jump in here. I'm
Yeah.
Karen. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Karen. It's good to see you.
So do you have any events coming up? I know it's kind of hard with COVID, but any sort of
Mhm.
fundraising events that you wanted to talk about that are coming up?
Yeah, I guess, because of the pandemic and so forth, we don't have anything in person planned at this point, but we do have our biggest annual fundraiser every September. And we are still pinning down the dates, but it is kind of it's a week-long kind of sweepstakes campaign, a matching campaign. It is our largest fundraiser of the year. It's the most financially supportive. And so we're actually in the middle of putting all of that together. But I think the most helpful thing I can offer at this time is to encourage people to follow us on Facebook, social media, or join our email list. Because we'll absolutely, when those details are crystallized, we'll be posting all about it on our social media and on our MailChimp email list. So, yep, in September.
I put all of that in the Facebook post,
Excellent.
the chat, so that's all available.
Wonderful.
That's awesome. So do you have any really a happy story that you want to share, or just a touching story that you can remember that, really touches you? And
Yeah, sure. I think so. I'm about to step down from my 4 years, almost 4 years of serving as the executive director. And before I was the executive director, I was facilitating our programs inside Lockhart Women's Prison for 8 years. So the lens through which I look at this work is very much sitting in circle with women in a classroom and doing the healing work alongside them. That has been my heart for 11 years. So something that has been really beautiful that has rippled out of this work is that women learn to tell the story of what put them on a path to prison while they're incarcerated as a means to heal from past trauma and abuse. It's the first time for many of these women to ever stop to reflect on their whole lives and be able to say in safe community without shame, this happened to me when I was little and my childhood was interrupted, or my teenage years were interrupted. And then I went on to do this and I caused this harm in my community, hurt people. So they learn to tell their story as a means for healing. They find that, the very same story that used to imprison them emotionally and intellectually now is their superpower for healing, not only themselves, but for those who are listening, because other women sitting in circle listening to the stories are recognizing pieces of themselves in another woman and realizing I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
that happens. But then when a woman leaves the carceral system and she still has it on her heart to share her truth, to tell her truth and to share her story, she learns that her story has a second superpower, and that's the superpower to evoke systemic change. Many of our program graduates have moved on to advocacy work, working in women's justice issues and influencing policy and new laws at the Texas Capitol to improve outcomes for women across the state. Not this legislative session, but last legislative session, there were several, truth be told, graduates who were part of a women's justice coalition. This is separate from Truth Be Told. They've moved on. They're working with somebody else because we're direct services, not advocacy. But several of our graduates moved on to engage in advocacy work. And there were, I believe, 9 bills up for discussion to improve outcomes for women in the Texas criminal justice system. They were dubbed the Women's Dignity Bills, and all of the bills passed into law.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's a happy story.
Yes, that's a very happy story. It's, you're talking about somebody's incarcerated. So that's one sort of prison, right? And then you've got the mental, the emotional and the mental. It's, if you can recognize and pull some of them out, it definitely changes the feelings and what the woman can do moving forward.
Absolutely.
So that's a very strong, empowering thing to be helping these women to do. And
it changes the personal narrative. It really does. It revises the personal narrative that used to keep them in prison and locked in a cycle of trauma, abuse, addiction, and incarceration. It just disrupts that cycle.
If they were in that sort of community outside of prison, they can influence others that they knew and maybe get them to quit their own cycle.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely a ripple effect. There's an African proverb, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, but it's something to the effect of, when you educate a man, you educate an individual, and when you educate a woman, you educate a community. And I think the same is true for healing. When a woman heals from past trauma and abuse, there's a ripple effect that happens, not only within her own family, not within herself, the way she's choosing to show up for herself and how she wants to write her new narrative moving forward. But, the majority of the women we serve are mothers and the primary caregivers. So it's, how they're showing up as mothers for their children, how they're showing up in the community as, business employees and business owners. So there is definitely a ripple effect when healing takes place in a woman.
Amazing. So you said over 20 years?
Over 20 years. Yeah, we started our programs on the Lockhart prison unit in 2000, but we officially became a nonprofit in 2003.
2003. Okay.
Yeah.
So big celebration in 2023. Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully
yes.
A big gala. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. That will be after my time, but I will definitely attend or at least give. That's this mission. I might be moving on as no longer wearing the executive suit, but this mission, and particularly the women, have my heart for the rest of my life, and I will be contributing, giving, supporting, advocating in other ways moving forward.
All right, wonderful. Well, we know how much your time is so valuable, and we appreciate you being here with us today. And we'll catch up with you in a couple of months, maybe see how you're doing, have you back on. We like to catch people at the different ends of what's going on. Maybe before September.
Maybe before September, that would be great. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a new executive director in place at that time. We have an interim who's stepping in, and she's going to be a bridge between me and the next leader. So it's very exciting.
Give her my email.
Okay. That sounds great.
In touch, and we'll get that information out there. So
awesome.
Want to thank everybody for watching. All the information is in the Facebook links, and I'll add them to our YouTube channel. So be sure to subscribe, because we've got so many amazing nonprofits to choose from. It's heartwarming if you need a little pick me up and see that there are so many good people in this world.
So many good causes and wonderful nonprofits. Yes.
Yeah, and so many stories. So subscribe to our YouTube channel, Organizing for Good, and give us a shout out. What do you think? So thank you, Katie. And
thank you, Karen.
I'm going to go ahead and end this streaming to Facebook.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's my